Who is Don James? That question crossed the lips and minds of college football fans throughout the state in 1974, as Husky Athletic Director Joe Kearney pared down his list of candidates to fill the head coaching vacancy. The name Don James kept propping up.
There were a whole lot of folks in the Pacific Northwest wondering, who's Don James? What color horse does he ride? And is he a white hat or a black hat? And who is he? Well, the guy who hired him, Mike Lude, knew full well who he was. He knew that he was one of the best football coaches in this country. And it didn't take long for Don to make his point.
Don James answered those questions in his charismatic manner with results. For 18 years, he scripted a success story at Washington that is unsurpassed. He became a fixture in the Husky record books and the hearts of Washington players and fans. James did more than realize his own dreams. He helped fulfill the goals of others. Small Midwestern towns are a special part of American culture. Each of those communities has a common thread that bonds. In Maslin, Ohio, it was football.
When I was growing up, football here in Tigertown was it for the boys. They all looked forward and hoping they could make the football team. And it was a great disappointment if your number didn't come up and you didn't make the team.
Probably my biggest hero, though, was my older brother, Tommy James, had played for Paul Brown at Maslin and at Ohio State, so on his national championship team, then played for him for 8 years with the Cleveland Browns. So I always had someone that was at a much higher level than I was to look up to.
In a town laden with football heroes and a Hall of Fame coach named Paul Brown, Don did not have to look far for inspiration. While he competed for the fabled Tigers, the seed was planted for James to pursue coaching.
I really appreciated and respected my high school coaches, and those were the people that I wanted to be most like. I idolized them. I chose a career because of my high school coaches, and then when I got on to college, I felt like this is still what I want to do, but I'd like to try and coach on the collegiate level rather than the high school level.
An all-American boy in an all-American town, James grew up during the Depression. He quickly realized there was more to life than football. One day, a friend talked Don into attending the neighboring Firemen's Festival, and that's where he met Carol.
We were 14. We were young. And my first impressions were I really thought he was a cute young guy, and I was interested, and I liked him because he was supposed to be a real good runner. And I really got angry because he walked my girlfriend home that night, and I was that kind of bothered me. But the next night he was at my house, and from then on it was just us.
They grew up high school sweethearts, but it took a little fate to keep things going. Despite a standout high school career, no college suitors came calling James. With Carol already enrolled at the University of Miami, near her family's winter home, Don was headed to a prep school in faraway Pennsylvania, he thought.
When Bob Breitenstein came through and they offered him this scholarship at the University of Miami, we couldn't have been happier. And I've often wondered if that hadn't come through, if we would ever really, the distance that we'd ever made it together or not.
James was a reserve for the Miami teams that went to the Orange and Sugar Bowls his first 2 seasons. As a junior and senior, he took over the reins as the starting quarterback, and almost 40 years later was inducted into the Hurricanes Hall of Fame.
You know, there's a lot of players that just have more natural abilities, quicker foot and size and speed. But as far as the mechanics of being a quarterback, Don was a good quarterback, and that's why he could go out and teach it.
But it was Don James who wanted to do the teaching. He and Carol were married midway through their college careers, and he began the pursuit of his dream.
Going to a convention in St. Louis, and there goes Woody Hayes, or there goes Darrell Royals, or Frank Broyles, or the quote, the name coaches would go by, and you'd try to get a glimpse of them, and maybe try to meet a few of them, and then you'd go to the luncheons and the dinners, the coach of the year dinner, and you see the people on the dais, and the past presidents, and the board, and the honorees, and the coaches of the year. So it would be a real thrill to get up on that platform someday.
Coaching stints at Florida State, Michigan, and Colorado primed James for his first head coaching position, Kent State. In his second season, he guided the Golden Flashes to their first bowl game. By his third year, he was the Mid-American Conference Coach of the Year. With several future NFL players like Hall of Famer Jack Lambert, James built a highly respected program in the midst of the Big Ten. That's when Washington came calling.
Well, that was exciting because, you know, as coaches, you know, we all go to our meetings and we sit around and at night, you know, when the meeting's over, you sit around and talk like, you know, that guy at SC's winning, well, he should win. He's got one of the best jobs, or the Notre Dame guy. So Washington always fit in there pretty good. They were in the top 15.
When he came in, his goals were at the top. I mean, it was focusing on winning the conference. It was we have to turn this program around and get it going the way it should with great consistency.
Building the program would take time. In his first year, the Huskies went 6-5 and followed that up with a 5-6 record. And a 1-3 start his third season saw Washington fans become restless.
A lot of people were down on us. You know, the press were getting down. It was my third year, and I'm sure there are a lot of alums that felt like if this guy keeps going the way he's going this year, he won't last his fourth year. We'll be buying this coach out.
I think it was against Minnesota was our third defeat. That plane ride was probably the worst thing. The plane should have crashed. I mean, he was that mad.
During the course of his 18-year career, there were many memorable moments, some frozen in time with importance. Don James, his staff and players were entering a game at Oregon that will always be considered a turning point for the Husky program.
That was the first game Don came around to every person in the locker room and shook their hand or said, tapped them on the shoulder and said, go get them, and whatever it was. And it felt good.
The Huskies exploded against Oregon for a 54-0 victory. Back on track, Washington kept rolling, winning 6 of its final 7 games. Names like Steele, Glasgow, Gaines, Jackson, and Moon became commonplace in Husky households. Climbing into the national polls the final week of the season, the Huskies erased Washington State to be in a position for the school's first Rose Bowl appearance since 1963. But they needed a little help. With family, friends, and the media gathered at the James home, it took a late field goal by USC to upend UCLA and give the Huskies a trip to Pasadena. He made it! He made it! He made it! The Rose Bowl proved to be the first of some memorable encounters between James and Michigan's legendary coach, Bo Schembechler.
He's tough to play against because, you know, he's not going to give the game away. He's not going to beat himself, and he's going to be hard-nosed and physical, and he's going to break tendencies. You couldn't find a tendency.
Thanks to the passing of Warren Moon, the Huskies raced to a 24-0 advantage early in the third quarter. It was James who went away from his tendencies, and that set the stage for the upset.
He was always remarkably astute about preparing for a bowl game by doing some things a little bit differently. At a point in the game where it was really seesaw, we stopped Washington and they went back to punt, and Don called for a fake punt, which was an extremely big play and caught us flat-footed.
I think it was a game that put us on the map as far as who was the University of Washington. Nobody expected us, first of all, to be in the Rose Bowl, and nobody definitely expected us to beat Michigan, who was number 3 in the country at that time.
At that time, I don't think the program ever looked back. We expected excellence. We knew we could win. And from then on, it's been what it's been the last 10 or 15 years.
The 1978 Rose Bowl proved to be the spark for the Washington program. Over the next 7 seasons, Washington finished first or second in the Pac-10 Conference, and the Huskies started a bowl run in 1979 that saw them appear in postseason galas in 13 of James' final 14 seasons. As successful as James and his Huskies proved to be, the ultimate goal of a national championship remained elusive, especially in 1984. Powered by running back Jock Robinson, the Huskies forged a 10-1 regular season mark, but a late loss at USC dropped them from the top of the polls. Despite an impressive victory against Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl, the Huskies could not dislodge BYU from the national title.
Well, we kind of felt that we had got shafted. BYU, they played Michigan, I think it was in their bowl game, and Michigan like 6-5 that year. I mean, and we beaten up on Michigan early that season when they were the #1 ranked team in the nation. We went up in Michigan and beat them up pretty bad.
Again in 1990, it was a late loss that kept the Huskies out of the national championship picture. Washington went on that year to crush Iowa 46-34 in the Rose Bowl, and that set the tone for an elusive date with destiny.
No, we lost it, but it still gave the players a lot of determination to get to work and continue to improve, and we were this close 91, let's win it all 92.
Fortified by one of the greatest defenses in college football history, the Huskies did not stumble during the 1991 season. Week after week, Washington rolled over its opponents and pulled off the key wins at California and USC to set up another showdown with Michigan in the Rose Bowl. All-American Steve Entman set the tone early, and the Huskies never looked back. The only question remained, with Miami also undefeated, how would the pollsters vote?
And I remember waking up sometime before 6, every quarter 6 or so, and I said, Carol, I said, it's 9 o'clock Eastern time, and if we haven't gotten a call by now, we're not going to get it. So, you know, we've lost it again. And because we went through the same thing with the BYU situation after the Orange Bowl, and that hurt, but this would have hurt a lot more.
Washington's first national championship was the crowning jewel in James' legacy with the Huskies. But victories are only part of his story.
And one of the reasons why I came into coaching is I felt football as a sport is good for the participants, and I wanted to have a program that was good. I didn't want to teach them to cheat and lie and break rules, and I spent a lot more time in front of my coaches or my players talking about life and character and good things to do and community service than I ever did with X's and O's.
He was one of the few coaches in the nation, if any, that believed that I could play the position of quarterback and do a good job on a big college level. So I owe a lot of my success to Coach James and the way he stuck with me through some very tough times.
He treated everybody the same. He treated the star quarterback the same as the water boy, and that was I think that's the way it has to be.
You knew when he was upset. The madder he gets, the redder he gets, and he stands up on it, starts rocking when he talks. So if he's rocking and rolling, you know, and red, you know that he's upset about something. But the teams, I think, reflected that personality. We'd get it done. We knew what we had to do, and we'd go out and do it.
Every time I saw him, he would always ask me, when are you coming back to get the degree? When are you coming back to get it? You know, you're not that far away from getting the degree. So at the beginning of this season, I decided that I would come back and make him proud of me again, because he's the type of person that you'll do anything for. And this is one way that I can say thank you for everything that you've ever done for me.
Don always had time for the James gang, both his players and especially his family, always his top priority.
We made a pact when we realized we were going to actually get married and everything, that we were going to always have a month together in the summer. And he has always done that. I don't care where he was, whether it was high school, college, or well, he's never been in the pros, but he always has taken a month for us and the family, and I think that really pretty much tells you how important his family is to him.
James' impact on the Huskies was never more apparent than when he announced his retirement prior to the 1993 season in protest of Pac-10 sanctions.
Well, the captains came in the beginning of the week and talked to Coach Lambeau about going out and doing something for Coach James, and Coach Lambeau came back to us and told us that, you know, it'd be a good salute to Coach James if we all walked out. You know, we never walked out ever before. So when we came out, I mean, the crowd just looked at us, and it was just emotion, you know, just everything kind of boiled up to that point. And we dropped to the knee and just pointed to him, and, you know, it's just kind of, you know, we kind of give this game to you, Coach, and we kind of give this whole season to you.
Well, the first thing, when Don looked, he said, as the fans started to cheer, and Don said, well, that can't be the Huskies, we always run out. And all of a sudden it hit us what was going on, and you know, it was just really emotional.
There was no way that a Stanford football team was going to beat us on that given day. The total football team and staff was probably more prepared emotionally for that one football game than I've ever seen it before.
We used to dream, and we dream a lot, and we'd say, all right, if we do this and if we do that, how will we approach things? And yet we hoped and we dreamed, but to really think that it would ever happen, It's hard to say. Does anyone ever dream that they'll ever get to where they really want to be in life?
Some people never dare to dream. Others only dream. Don James did much more. He lived his dream and helped fulfill the dreams of many others.